All right, so Alicia, aka Dark Alice, thank you for coming through to Six Reels Deep. It was great, we talked about some stuff, in the first season, so I'm glad that you're here. Yeah, so like before, like we did with everybody else, prior to you, you could feel free to share your criteria in terms of like how you came up with this list and also what your honorable mentions were, and then you could jump into your list.
Well, basically, I didn't consider myself into any strict criteria per se, because there's a lot of horror films on the market that I just refuse to watch because I probably don't have the stomach for it or the mental capacity for it in terms of mental health. I try to stay away from things that kind of will put my mental health in a different direction per se. You'll notice in my list that I went for a lot of I like a lot of ghost possession, hauntings, kind of stuff like that. So I didn't really look for any strict criteria. Just over the years, over the past 25 years, the films that I wouldn't mind like watching at least once or twice a year when the feeling comes on, when I crave something. But to be honest with you, I like a lot of the older films from the 80s and 90s more. But still, the list was very difficult for me to whittle down. It took me 2 weeks to whittle down a list that was like 25 films in it. Okay. On my honorable mentions list, I have a film that actually Summer introduced me to, and it's one that I watched every year religiously in time for Halloween, and that is Trick or Treat.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's
Which is on my
mhm,
to rewatch list for this year's spooky,
Yeah.
spooky month. Man.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. I just love it because it's an anthology film, and the stories are so unique. My favorite one in the whole bunch was the one with the werewolves with Anna Paquin.
All right, she
That
was in
one was
that.
my
I
favorite
I
story.
forgot about that.
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. She's very young in it, but that one was my favorite in all of these stories. Another one on the list is Freaky. I
No,
don't know
I
if you
still
guys
haven't
remember that
seen
one.
that to know. That's with Vince Vaughn, right?
Vince Vaughn.
Right.
Yes. Yes, that film I as well is a guilty pleasure for me. It, because watching Vince Vaughn switch in between from a serial killer to a teenage girl, I don't know. He just has the talent for it. He did it very very well. Vince Vaughn is extremely tall and menacing, and the I forgot her name. She's very tiny. The lead actress. I don't know why her name escapes me at the moment.
If I'd seen
Forgive me
it,
at the time.
if I'd seen it, I would have been
Hmm.
able to like help you with that name though. But I haven't, and I really should
Yeah,
check it out. 'Cause I heard a lot of really like positive things about it.
very good.
Hmm.
It's very very good. Okay. Another one on that list is on my honorable mentions is Happy Death Day.
Oh yeah. I had a lot of fun with that one. That's a guilty pleasure for me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I prefer the first one to the second one.
Oh, I heard the
I
second one
think
wasn't
it.
all that, so I never bothered to watch it.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you touch on something and then trying to repeat the same thing, it's very hard to how you say to get that magic back a second time or a third time. You have to be very very careful when you're doing sequels and stuff like that of something that has been very successful. AKA the Conjuring universe. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the last one I have on that list is the remake of The Evil Dead from 2013.
Right. I should have put that on my honorable mentions, man. I enjoyed seeing that in theaters.
Yeah,
I
that's
know,
a
So
yeah.
solid remake.
Yeah.
you remember we
Climax
went to
with
see
the
that together in cinema for the
okay.
first time.
All right.
Yes, I remember.
With the
What
blood
made the
rain
entire
and stuff.
experience even more creepy was the fact that hardly anybody was in the cinema at that time when we watched it. So it just helped with the whole freakiness of the environment. But yeah, those
Yeah.
are my honorable mentions.
All right. Okay.
Well, my first in the list is a film from 2000 called Ginger Snaps.
Ah. Need to rewatch that. Need to rewatch that. Yeah.
because it's a film that it's a coming of age film as well, and it kind of it's a metaphor for coming of age, like a girl coming of age, getting that time of the month for the first time. But it's also they also blend the transformation, the physical transformation of being transforming from a girl to a young woman with transforming into a werewolf. It's a very weird combination. But it is let me see the performances. The lead Catherine Isabel and Emily Perkins. They're sisters. Bridget and Ginger. Of course, Ginger is the hotter one of the two, hence the name. As someone knows that name tends to warn somebody who is more outgoing. Yeah. So it's a
Gilligan's Island.
yes,
Yes.
aka
For real,
Ginger
for
in
real, for
Gilligan's
real.
Island.
Mm.
But it's not an American film. It was released in Canada actually, and I think it's one of the most underrated werewolf films actually because it's not often spoken about, and I think it's because it was not released in America. I just noted it was more like it's like a witty kind of feminist film, and I think it was like a film that was ahead of its time as well too. Maybe that's why it was not well noticed as well. The transformation could be a bit iffy in terms of special effects because you can see it's kind of how you say the makeup. It was just a bit cheesy at the time for that time for 2000. That transition they didn't really start using too much CGI and stuff like that as yet. A lot of it as well was practical effects for the film. So that's why I kind of appreciated that timeline before they started. Everything was CGI, and you could see that the computer did everything and stuff like that. But that's why I love that film, and I always put it on my list. And it's also a guilty pleasure of mine. I also watch it at least once a year. And I think I wrote a review for it on my page for the anniversary of the film as well.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
The second one on my list is Dead Silence from 2007.
I heard the title, but I never saw it. Or not familiar with this
Actually,
one.
it's a James Wan and Lee Wanell film.
Oh, okay. I didn't
If you're creeped out by dolls, it really does lock into that phobia very strongly.
Oh yeah, and not just dolls per se, ventriloquist doll, which is even worse. That is what made that a whole nother level of creepy for me. The fact that it was a ventriloquist doll, because secretly I don't like ventriloquist dolls at all. They freaked me out. So this film just made it worse. As you know, James Wan just has that signature atmosphere that he plays with the lighting, the dimness of the lighting and the camera angles, and don't talk about the jump scares. This film had a lot of jump scares and the unsettling presence with all the dolls and the folklore of the town based on the old lady and the dolls who couldn't have children and stuff like that. That story in itself about somebody who doesn't have children and they're alone and stuff like that. It kind of always bleeds into in a small town. They always tend to bleeds into a kind of the old freaky lady that lives in the house by herself with a million and one cats kind of thing. They just played on that. In terms of the big also too there's a big twist at the end too that you'll literally feel like your stomach hit the floor as well too because you would not see that coming. Another thing is I don't think that Dead Silence gets talked about enough either because
is it because of Annabelle? Because I think that movie, I think Annabelle
it
and
overpowered
Annabelle
it.
Creation would have came out before 2017, right? I think.
No, this came out in 2007. Dead Silence was
Oh, right. It was long before. Okay. Right. Sorry.
Yeah, it was long before. So I don't know why. Maybe because everybody was obsessed with Chucky and all this stuff like that. But like I said, I find ventriloquist dummies are more freaky than dolls.
You know
the idea.
the funny thing as you're saying that, right?
Hmm.
I don't know if you would take it the
Hmm.
same to Ricardo, right? Um,
Hmm.
the oh gosh, who's the character from Batman the animated series? The sort of Al Capone doll,
Yeah, dummy.
dummy. Yeah, I was thinking about
Yeah,
that
dummy.
when you were saying how you hate ventriloquist dolls. For some reason, I was thinking about that. Yeah,
Yeah, because the whole aesthetic of it is that somebody is controlling the doll. Somebody needs to control the doll, right? But the underlying thing of this is that the doll is not being controlled by somebody. Well, it's being controlled by something, an entity. That is
exactly.
what
And
makes it even
you're not
worse.
sure what it is. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and that's what makes it even worse and more creepy. Actually, to be honest with you, the first time I watched Dead Silence, I couldn't sleep any night,
Oh
and I had to
wow.
move
Huh.
like, yeah, it did traumatize me a bit. It did traumatize me a bit.
Wow, wow. Now I'm
Um,
actually curious to see the show for myself. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, it slightly traumatized me. That's why I'll watch it like once in a blue moon because, especially where I'm living,
Hmm.
no, I'll get freaked out very easily.
Yeah.
The other film in my list is Deliver Us from Evil from 2014.
Title sounds familiar. I know I heard about
Someone
that.
knows this one very well. Someone knows
Yeah,
this one very well.
I must have rewatched that movie at least a half a dozen times by now.
Yeah, yeah, it's on both of our guilty pleasures list.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it actually blends like police investigation with the supernatural
Possession.
possession,
Yeah.
yeah, exorcism kind of thing. That's why I liked it so much. And it also digs a lot into how strong is your faith kind of thing, because at the beginning of the film the guy is losing his faith and then he gets these series of crime and weird stuff start to happen in New York City, and let's just say things take a very weird turn. And also too, why I'm a big fan of this movie is because Edgar Ramirez, the Venezuelan actor.
Oh, he's in that too.
uh,
Okay, okay.
mhm. Yeah, he plays the role as the priest in the film, and he kind of helps the star to regain his faith. Well, after going through all of that stuff in the film, um, the exorcism sequence in that film is one of my favorites. I like that exorcism sequence better than Exorcist and any other that I've seen, because the physicality and the goriness of that entire scene, it makes it like, oh no, I no no no, like that. I really liked in the entire aesthetic of the film too, because it's New York and they're focusing more on the crime-ridden area of New York. Is always this impending sense of dread, that you don't know what's going on in these
Yeah.
dark corners, in these dark buildings, abandoned buildings, and so on. And the end of it, it is there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The movie doesn't end like on a sour note or a very depressing note. It's very hopeful.
I admire that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. My other film is Insidious, 2010.
Uh haven't
Yeah.
seen that in a long, long while. I never bothered to watch the
Actually,
sequels neither. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, yeah.
you haven't seen any of them.
No, I only saw the first one, but I heard the sequels. Well, I don't know if the sequels were good or maybe one
I like
was
the
good.
first
I
and
don't
the
know.
second one.
All right. I know there
I
was
like
one
the
that was
first
kind
and the
of bad.
second one.
Hmm.
Yeah. Red Door wasn't so good. This one is as well as directed by James Wan and Lee Wanell. And this one really freaked me out because anything to do with sleeping and nightmares and sleepwalking, mhm. That's why Nightmare on Elm Street is as well one of my favorite franchises. And the fact that it added in that whole thing with the dreamscape and being able to actually, it's not really sleepwalking, it's more about astral projection. The ability to have that was the basis of the film. And also the fact that Patrick Wilson was in it as well too, because I'm a big fan of his. The other thing too is the pacing as well too. It doesn't drag at any one point in time. When you think that okay, things dying on a little bit, it's like no, no. Then you see a creepy child run across there. You'll see something move in the corner there. They'll always keep you on your toes, and that's what I like, because a lot of, I find modern day horror films, because they're trying to fill up some space in between, some lag time. You'll find that the pacing of the movie slows all the way down, and then by the time the climax comes in the film, you kind of like, oh god, kind of bored half to death already. But in Insidious, at least the first film for me, it keeps the momentum of the scares and the anxiety and the intensity of the atmosphere. Another one for me, and notice this one was on your list too, Matthew, was Drag Me to Hell
Right.
for
That was
2009.
an honorable mention for me, and this was on
Yeah.
Ricardo's list, as in top 10.
Right. So it's on my list as well too. Yes, it does mark Sam Raimi's return to horror after doing Spider-Man and so on. The entire thing, I've always been a big fan of films that bring in folklore from other countries into the whole story, into the base of the whole story. Especially as this one had a kind of a gypsy, kind of Latin American kind of vibe to it. And the other thing too is it would kind of be like on a dark comical kind of side in certain instances. Like it was very gross, but it would be comical, aka the scene with the hand through the mouth and so on. Because you want to laugh, it's terrifying, but you still want to laugh at what's going on the screen, But that's classic Sam Raimi because of Evil Dead, our experience with Evil Dead and so on. It's disturbing, but you want to laugh, right? And don't talk about the ending that nobody ever saw coming. That ending was like punch to your gut kind of thing. Just when you think everything was okay, it was like, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
I think what makes that moment funny is how it just sort of like cuts to black and then the title shows up again. I just laugh when that
Yeah,
happens. It's just like, wow,
yeah,
Sam, that's how you decide to end your film. I love it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
So,
part,
so
the part with the part with the goat dread, that has cracked me up every time.
Yes.
I know, right?
The good-
I know, right?
Part of the
It's like,
group, yeah, it's hilarious.
it is, because how are you supposed to to take this seriously with this goat talking like that? But he's possessed, obviously. But every time I saw a goat after that film, I just I just bust out laughing because I just remember Drag Me to Hell. And if you think about it, she is trying so hard to keep up appearances and to please other people, right? And not to say that the Oli was right for putting a curse on her, but in her thing of trying to keep up an appearance and do certain things, it kind of turns around and kind of bites her in the butt, right? Because you have to do what you feel is the right thing to do, your conscience, no matter what. So it's like a very hard lesson that she had to learn. You have to follow your conscience, which is a big thing for me in my personal life. And by the way, I did not empathize with the old lady. I'm sorry.
Oh no!
I
She
just
she, she was
thought she was kind of
terrible. She
evil.
was terrible. She was terrible. Yeah. And she tried to
Yeah,
come
yeah,
off. She tried to come off like, oh, she's the victim. No, she was terrible. She was terrible.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just thought that the girl could have been truer to herself.
Yeah.
The other one for me was Mama from 2013.
Oh, still haven't seen
Hmm.
that. That's I think it's executive produced by Guillermo del Toro, right? I think that was the sell of it.
Yes.
His name was attached.
Yeah, yes, and it was directed by Andy Muschietti. The thing that I love
Yeah.
about this film is that it's like a dark, a very dark fairy tale kind of feel to it because it deals with children.
Mhm.
Yeah, the entire thing plays out like a very freaky, dark fairy tale, and the special effects with the mama character, because I only learned this from Summer actually, that the actor is actually doing those weird movements because he was born with some kind of genetic problem.
Yes. Yeah.
From
He's the same actor he's been in he was a Crooked Man as well in
yes,
The Conjuring Part 2. Yes, and a lot of other
Oh,
things.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. He was
It's not
born
a
with some
special
weird
effect.
effect.
He can move like that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
He could actually move like that, which made it even freakier that somebody's actually moving like that. That's why the film looked so fluid. And the thing about it is the entire story itself is like with this dark sense of dread because, well, more like an emotional, it was more like an emotional base because the you feel an empathy for the mama character. That's the thing. It plays on your empathy a lot, and it's terrifying but beautiful at the same time. I don't know how best to describe it. And the ending is very, it's very heart wrenching and emotional. Because a choice has to get made, and you kind of understand why it went in that direction. But it's also to do with a lot about maternal instincts. The maternal instinct of the main character, Jessica Chastain, who at first doesn't think that she has a maternal bone in her body. But when it comes to her having the guardianship of the two kids, everything changes, and her natural instincts come out to protect these kids from the mama entity, not knowing that the entity doesn't want to harm the kids. You know, and also too, I love the names that they choose for the children, Victoria and Livy. Again, very fairy tale names that they choose. You normally see those names in fairy tale books and so on. But the whole aesthetics of the film, the muted colors and the shadowing and the movements are what is very attractive about this film, other than the story as well too. The other one which I did a review last year, I think actually for its 20th anniversary, is the film out of Thailand called Shutter in 2004.
Shutter.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it's
They actually had a remake for it as well, but the remake is very
it's
bland,
horrible.
as per usual.
Horrible.
Yeah.
hmm It's horrible, and it's actually I honestly I like Shutter more than the Grudge, more than Juon.
Hmm.
To be honest with you, yeah. I like this film more, and I always go back to it time and time again in terms of one of the
Mhm.
best horrors to come out of the Asian cinema.
We're on the same page there. I actually prefer
hmm
Shutter to The Grudge as well.
Because there are times that the Grudge actually kind of drones on and on, for want of a better word, and there's still no proper backdrop explanation. This one, there's a little more grounding in it, and the whole thing about it is as well too is there's a lesson to be learned there, because it's actually to do with like a whole path of secrets and guilt and lies, and also to supernatural vengeance as well too. One of the aspects of the film that I enjoyed was that they took real pictures that you would find on the internet, where people said that oh, these pictures, they captured a ghost or an anomaly, or something in the photo. That it's still a big thing on the internet and so on, where you see somebody just take random photos, and when they develop it after, it's like, what is that? You could see something in the corner, you could almost see a face in the corner, or a light in the corner, or something like that. I really like that aspect of it, because I'm into, as Summer well knows, I'm into paranormal a lot because of my own personal experiences. So that was another aspect of the film that really draws me to it as well. And honestly, this is one of the cases where the lead character got what he deserved in the end, really and truly, without going too much into it, because he does a very, very horrible thing, and he got what he deserved. And that's another aspect of why I enjoyed the film so much, because there was consequences to your action.
Right, like poetic justice then, in a sense. I got it.
Yes, yes, yes. The other film I have on my list is The Ring from 2002.
Wow, have not seen that in a while. Oh, I'll put it like this, right? I saw it once
Mm-hmm.
when it
Ah,
premiered on cable, and even though I
mm-hmm.
forgot nearly everything in it because it was 2003 when it came out on cable, I will never forget.
2003, yeah.
I know the film called in 2002, but it will like come out like about like I don't know, like 6 months after its theatrical release, right? But one thing that
Yeah.
always stood out to me was like the first time that the tape is played, and it's just
Yeah.
the disturbing imagery that you see before you see that well, and before you see the girl
Yeah.
come out the well. There's like this shot of, I'm not sure what it is, if it's maggots or something, or if it's like video static or something, but there's something about
Well,
that really
yeah.
unsettled me, and that's before you even see the well. That always stood out to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that scene with the maggots, that is tricky as well too, because it starts off like maggots, and then it looks like bodies kind of writhing on the floor. the images are disturbing and horrifying looking, but yet you can't switch it off. It's mesmerizing, and I don't know if that was done in that way on purpose to say that, oh well, that's the power that the tape had, the supernatural power that the tape had, or what. But the idea that a videotape could be cursed was like this part of the storytelling that attracted me, because it's almost something like, okay, the tape wants itself to go viral, in other words, but yet it's found in the most out of the way place, hidden in the most out of the way place, backwards place that you could ever think of, but yet it wants itself to be seen, right? The thing about that in the beginning, it starts off like a very, run of the mill supernatural film, and they talk about this tape in the room, and then that scene where that the mother is talking about that child scares the living daylights out of me, because everything is quiet, the memorial and so on, and there's a flash that you get, like you should have seen her face. That camera close up flash with girl's face still scares me up to this day, because I could see it in my mind all now. The whole thing though is that I only enjoy the first Ring film. I don't like the second one at all, and I think they should have stopped at the first one. But it's very two-way street, because you're feeling sorry for the Samara character, because you're saying that, okay, maybe she was misunderstood. She had certain telekinetic powers or telepathy powers, and she was misunderstood, and because the parents were ill-equipped, they did what they had to do, right, to protect their sanity. But the twist at the end is that everybody finds out that she's evil, and Madam went and released her, and that was that. Being released now gives her more power over the tape, and so on and so forth. Um, I would say, at the end though, I really felt it for her when the ex dies as well, because I was hoping that they could have had like a reconciliation, because they were kind of like on the mend, and that is really like a real gut punch there, because I really didn't want him to get written off at the end of the film, but I suppose they had their reasons. The other one I have is A Quiet Place.
Yep. Fan favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that one, because number one, I'm a big fan of both John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, and husband and
But of
wife
course you
acting
are.
together.
Of course you
Yes,
are.
yes. And number one, husband and wife acting together always gonna have excellent chemistry on screen. Again, this film deals with a lot of themes about parenthood and guilt in a post-apocalyptic time zone, and also too, it deals with dealing with somebody who has a disability, because as you know, in the film the daughter is unable to hear, right? And that actually is a big plus, because these aliens who are attacking in this post-apocalyptic time, they go with sound. So for most of the film, what I liked is that they're trying not to make any sound, because these aliens, any sound that they hear, you're gonna, get killed. And in between all of that, the climactic part for me, the anxiety ridden part for me was, okay, you're a woman and you're about to give birth to a baby. How are you supposed to stay quiet where there are no painkillers, no hospital, nothing? And she has to find an area to make this baby now and not scream, because if she makes a sound, the aliens are gonna come and massacre everybody. That part in the film was my favorite. Seeing her trying to give birth, and the husband trying to distract the alien on the other side. Love that scene. And
The part where she mashed the nail on the stairs, right? That girl audible
oh
gas
god, yes.
everybody in the theater. I remember that.
I could imagine. I could imagine. Unfortunately, I would have loved to see this film in theater actually, because of the sound and the imagery and so on. But unfortunately, I had to watch it on streaming services.
Yeah, the theatrical is one of the most memorable theatrical experiences I've ever had, just for how
I could imagine.
quiet everybody was. So
Yes.
quiet. You
Yeah,
couldn't even
I
people
saw
were
it
trying
theatrically
to
too.
make their popcorn bags were being
Yeah,
like
I
people were
only
telling
could
each other.
hear. He has stacks
Yeah.
and stacks and thing in the background. But I
Right.
did, yeah.
So quick question. Quick little thing about that, right? So in my case, I snuck in a subway, and so in addition to like not trying to expose myself to people, and they call the ushers, hey, that guy has a subway, blah blah blah. I try not to make too much noise with it in the bag and whatnot. So it's like doing that while watching all this stuff and all the quiet was like it was nerve wracking, but I had a lot of fun watching it in theaters though.
Yeah, that sounded really. That's true. And the subway rapper tends to make a lot of noise because
It
it's people.
does. It does.
I could have imagined you trying to open it very carefully and not like.
Yep, that was me. That was me. That was me.
Oh, that was funny, Matt. And really and truly, the core of the film, the core concept of the film is you need silence for survival, right? You can't make any sound whatsoever. But actually, funny enough, Matt, this is not the first film that I've seen like that, where you can't make a sound. There's another film, it reminds me of another film that was released on Netflix a while ago. And the star was this girl from Sabrina, the Teenage Witch series.
Oh gosh. I'm forgetting the name right now, but I know you're talking about.
I forgetting her name, and I forgot even the name of the film. But there was a film very similar to A Quiet Place where it was to do with these kind of pterodactyl looking birds kind of thing, but it wasn't very well done, and that's why I
Yeah, that
like
was
The Quiet Place so much. Yeah,
Yeah, that
it was
was so much.
horrible.
Yeah, I remember the movie. Yeah, it kind of came and
Yeah.
went. She did it. I think she filmed that before Sabrina because she looked real young there.
Yes, yeah, she was very young in that movie, and like
came
I
out
said, the pterodactyl thing was the CGI was terrible in that movie, and like you said, Ricardo, it came and went. I just watched it once, and I was like, okay, that's never gonna be watched again. But A Quiet Place is something that you can watch again, and the second part is just as good as the first, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the issue I had with part two is that I had to watch it home because COVID. That was when that was when the lockdown had started, and it was like, oh, now big movie studios putting out movies on streaming. So yeah, I had to watch it at home.
Yeah. But there are certain films that really should be enjoyed in a theater, and I believe this is one of them. Even though I missed out on that experience, I always wanted to experience it like that. So I said one of these days, maybe when I could invest some money in a good sound system, surround system, and so on, maybe I'll get the whole experience.
Yeah. If I just say one quick thing about part two, right?
Yeah.
It's a shame that the lockdown happened though, because I would have loved to see the intro to part two on big screen, and that's when the invasion takes place at their home, their hometown.
Yeah.
I'd have loved to see that on big screen, but I had to watch it on my laptop, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're getting on to the end, almost to the end here. Sorry, I'm just flipping back and forth between my notes on the tablet. Okay, the other one for me is The Orphan. Well, Orphan in 2009. Which
heard of
funny
that,
enough,
but I never saw it. I heard of it.
Okay, I also I got to see this one in cinema. Funny enough, with Summer as well too, and I know that it was based on a true story, but I never got the gist of the whole story until streaming services, because I have a bunch of streaming services now, and I got the real story, and it's actually the curious case of Natalia Grace. I don't know if you all know about that one. Yeah, it's kind of loosely based on that. It's very fictionalized, but it's loosely based on that. Yeah, because Natalia Grace is also from the Ukraine and stuff like that, right? So there's always been unfortunately a stigma attached to adopting children, especially from a foreign country. And the other thing too is if they're past a certain age. A lot of people actually protested and criticized the film because they said, "Oh, you're going to affect adoption rates and so on because the film is very traumatizing and so on like that." But I wouldn't say that because it's very very far fetched in terms of the fictionalization of the story. Again, another favorite of mine, because why? Vera Farmiga, one of my favorite actresses, playing the lead, and
Yeah, I remember. I
like,
remember I remember it had a great poster for it as well. Where the
yes,
mirror poster thing that looked cool. And yeah. The premise is great. It's like, oh shit, that was going on. All right, that's a good,
yeah.
interesting idea and a twist. Like, okay, that kind of cool.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, it's again, it's based again on a family that is not perfect. They're dealing with grief because she's trying to deal with the grief and guilt of a miscarriage, and they decide that they're gonna adopt. Because of the miscarriage, she's dealing with alcoholism. So the family is very dysfunctional, and they have their own emotional trauma that they're dealing with, right? But in order to heal from it, they decide to do this adoption, only to realize that it just gonna split the dynamic further because this child is not who she seems to be. And a matter of fact, is not a child.
Right, that was a big twist. Yeah.
Exactly. And the actress, let me get her proper name, Isabel Fuhrman performance, switching back and forth like that, because she starts off very adorable and cute, with little cutesy dresses, and then very soon she gets into a full blown psychotic menace and trying to kill people, eliminate people, so that she could be the head of the family. Really, really, and truly, to see a child acting in that manner in the first place is disturbing. Far
Yeah, it
less
reminded
for
me a
if.
bit of Macaulay Culkin's The Good Son, a movie I
Mm,
quite like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
another film
yeah.
that I haven't seen. I have not seen that film for a long time, but yes, I remember that was very disturbing to watch.
It
Yeah.
was.
Especially,
Mm.
yes, yeah,
With Elijah Wood. Yeah. That was a great one.
Yes,
yes, yes,
yeah.
very, very good film. The switch between her and the reveal of the story, like, you still, I didn't really like the second part, to be honest with you, because I would have preferred not to have known her origin story. I like
Right.
that orphan still keeps you in the dark. And I think they should have like stopped it there. And the problem is when films are successful, the studios just say, okay, well, let's try to do a sequel.
Yeah,
It's
they did a
something,
sequel, right? I sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Vaguely
it's
remember.
something that, yeah, and it's something that kind of sickens me now with modern filmmakers and producers and studio and stuff, is that when once a film is nice and it's done and so on, especially with horror, for a fan, it's like, how to describe it? It's like magic. You know, some people want to know what's the obsession with getting scared, but there's a high when you get scared, and when you try to replicate it again, it doesn't come out the same way, because you go in and knowing, oh, this is the backstory, or this, and then they talk too much about the backstory, but there is fear in the unknown, and when they started revealing too much about the character, it took away some of the impact of the first film, so that's why the second film was a one and done for me, and I just watched the first film and tried to block out my mind with the second one. But the narrative is the classic child from hell syndrome turned into adult, into a psychotic adult. The other one for me is It Follows from 2014.
Oh, saw that
Yeah.
once, and that was when everybody was
Really good.
hyping it up. That one I need to rewatch. Like, I really feel like if I watch it over, I will like love it. You know.
Yeah, well, it's the thing is, it's not for everybody. Yeah, it's a very indie horror film, and it's not for everybody. Pacing may not agree with everybody because it's a very slow burn, but it's very eerie and freaky at the same time. Because again, it's kind of like when you can't identify, that something is after you constantly, and that is the atmosphere that you get in the entire film. That something is watching you, something is coming for you, you know it. It's an unseen force. And then you can't identify it on most of the time until it's too late. And the thing about it is, when you identify it in the film, right? They're not running or anything like that. This figure is just looking straight at you and walking straight towards you. And well, the other weird thing is that most of the time these entities naked. I don't understand why. I was traumatized a little bit by that, but we'll get onto that because it's all to do with, I think it's an allegory. Help me out here, some for like having teenage sexual encounters, and
I think the cool thing with It Follows is
uh-huh,
it is one of those films where you can basically attest
mhm,
a lot to what the entity is. You know, for some
mm.
people, like when I first watched it, I thought it was basically an allegory for STDs. You know,
Oh,
spreading it from one person to the next, that sort of thing.
yeah, yeah.
And then on multiple rewatches, I've even gotten to the point where I think it's an allegory for growing up. You know, you can't escape
Hmm.
adulthood no matter what you do. You know, she spends a lot of time in this movie with
Right.
friends and you know,
She
and
does.
trying to hold on to that friendship, and those friendships are trying to protect
Mhm.
her no matter what she does, though it's coming. And it happens after she has sex with the guy. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like it could be, you know, depending on who you are, you could see it, or maybe where you are in life, you could see it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing about that film. It's no interpretation of it is going to be wrong because it's all in the eyes of the viewer. And like Summer says, these friends they spend a lot of time together, and the good thing about it is that they believe her. In the end of it, they believe her. They were confused at first, but in the end, they believe her and they backed her up. Another thing too is there's an absence of adults here in the film. You hardly
Yeah.
ever see the adults, which was very strange because these kids moving back and forth in this film, and sometimes they're out very late in the night and very early in the morning, and you don't see the adults. It's like, why are these adults not calling these kids on the phone saying, "Where are you? Why did you sneak out of the house?" kind of thing. That was the other unnerving part of it. It's like, where are all the adults in this film? But I think it's like what Summer says. It's an allegory for growing up, dreading growing up, dreading the things that come with growing up, holding on to your relationships and not growing apart. But they did it in such a unique way that the fear is represented by an unseen monster, by an unidentified monster in their mind. I think it's a film that doesn't get talked about often. I would like to like do an in-depth review on it better in terms of my writing reviews because I write better than I speak, as you notice. I'm not a very good speechifying kind of person, but it is one of my favorites, and I watch it at least once a year again when the spooky time comes around. Um, Almost coming to the end here. Final Destination. Again, one of
Which one? The
the
first one?
favorite. The first one, yeah, the first
Okay,
one.
okay, okay. Hmm.
Yeah,
Mm. Good
yeah,
choice.
the first one. Hmm. Yeah, it's from 2000 exactly. The thing about this film is, for me, the attraction that death is inevitable. Everybody knows that death is inevitable, and there's that old saying about, oh, they cheat death and so on and so forth, whatever. We have a destiny to die young, whatever. This film just takes that narrative and turn it straight on its head, and it's pretty scary. And listen, I love the first film. The first film is my favorite, but to be honest with you, I love the entire franchise, even up to the one that was just released this year.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I,
Yeah,
I love the
really
entire
enjoy
franchise.
Bloodlines. I really enjoy Bloodlines too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and in terms of performance, I think the entire franchise itself has performed solid consistently because there isn't one Final Destination film that I'm like, ugh, I didn't like that one. No, for me, no. And I really love the ingenuity of using the Rube Goldberg style accidents where you will see like, oh, a little bit of water drop from there, or it's going by that electrical cord. That those weird setups is like it puts the idea in your head kind of like a paranoia kind of thing because in our daily lives we don't realize how much we put ourselves in danger. Like the simple thing of washing your hands and maybe it's still damp and you decide to still try and plug in the charger or touch the light switch or something like that. Those little things, when you watch a film like Final Destination, you get paranoid. Those little things kind of make you think twice. So before I'm already a paranoid person. As someone knows, I'm already paranoid. Probably shouldn't be watching Final Destination, but say what. the only aspect of the film for me that kind of annoys me every time I look at it is the fact that um, everybody kind of, apart from the actress who plays Claire River, that character, everybody is kind of like freaked out at Dewan Sawa's character, Alex Browning. Like that scene, the teacher who survives the plane crash, temporarily survives the plane crash, she acts like the boy is a serial killer or something like that, and calls the FBI on him. I find she was being a little kind of too much during the film.
Extra.
That Yeah, extra. That is the word, some extra. That is the only aspect of that film that kind of ticks me off. Like, oh god, just fast forward through that kind of thing. Other than that, another film where there's an unseen killer because death does not have a form, so it's very philosophical in a kind of a way, and the kills as well too, trying to figure out who is going to die next, the anxiety of that, and not knowing how you're going to die, and only the person who has the premonition could read the signs and see, oh, this person going to get hit by a bus, a sign going to fall on that one. The anxiety of the entire film for me is just tops, and like I told you, I love that entire franchise. And coming up finally to my last one. Now, this one also spawned an entire franchise. A film recently came out the other day as part of the franchise
Right.
based on the paranormal. And this is my number one film, guilty pleasure film. And it's been saved permanently on my HBO Max streaming service in my list. And that
Why do I
is,
think I know what this is?
well, someone knows me very well. The Conjuring.
But of course.
Did you guess that?
Yeah.
Did you
I
get
I,
that one?
I had so much fun watching it on the big screen though. I
Yeah,
just love
yeah.
how it feels like we're watching a 70s horror film. Like I don't know, like I don't want to say too long bit, but like for me, I just always love that text scroll at the beginning of the film. That is straight up,
And showing the real
omen
stuff, yeah.
that's omen
Yeah.
worship right there. That was like when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I'm really gonna enjoy that film, and I did.
Yeah.
Totally enjoyed it.
Well, for me, let me explain to you exactly why that film is number one for me. And it's a bit controversial, not in the movie community, but in the paranormal community, in the paranormal forums that I'm part of. As someone knows, I'm a big fan in the paranormal forums of TV shows and so on, right? And I knew from before, because I read like a maniac sometimes, about the existence of Ed and Lorraine Warren and about the Amityville horror, and I knew about the bigger cases. I don't know all about all their case portfolio, but the big ones I knew about. And also at the time, Lorraine Warren was still alive, and she would guest star in some of the shows because they would ask her to come on and consult with her because she was seen as a very respected member of the paranormal community, as an elder. So the other paranormal investigators would constantly go to her for advice when they're dealing with something, with an entity that they don't understand or control or can't control, right? So I knew about all of that going into this film. And I knew about the case, the Perron family case as well too. Another thing is, once James Wan attaches his name to a film, I am like, I'm watching that. I don't have to look at the trailer. I just like everything that James Wan puts out. And like you rightly said, Matthew, I loved how they kept that whole 70s vibe thing. But that as well because that story actually takes place during the 1970s, where the real Warrens go to investigate this family's house, the hauntings, and so on. Right? Again, anything like I told you before, I love Vera Farmiga as an actress and Patrick Wilson. Combine the two of them together, and that is like movie magic for me. And the chemistry, the online chemistry, and their kind of grounded portrayals of Ed and Lorraine Warren, the real Ed and Lorraine Warren, for me was just another main attraction for me. And I don't know if you know anything about the backstory as well behind the scenes of the film, but Vera Farmiga spent a lot of time with the real Lorraine Warren during the filming of this film, during the production of the film, I should say. She
Oh,
spent a
okay.
lot
That
of
that I
time with
didn't
the
know.
yeah, she spent a lot of time with her at least during the filming of the first film because you remember Lorraine was very aged at this point in time and her health started going on and so on. The thing about it is, as someone knows, I'm a big fan of haunted house ghost stories. I've always been obsessed with those things. Hence why I think I love the paranormal circuit so much. Now, why I say it's a controversial story and a controversial franchise on the whole is because there are members of the paranormal community that think that Ed and Lorraine Warren were just doing like a bunch of hooey. They don't believe that Lorraine had the clairvoyant abilities and so on. So they think that a lot of the cases that they just did it for money and fame and all that kind of stuff, right? But for me, I just chalk it up to jealousy and so on and so forth, right? So that's why I say that these stories are very controversial because even this one that just came out last rites has gotten a lot of criticism because that particular haunting as well too. Once it gets publicized in the media, they think that the family has been seeking attention when they did that because they were trying to get help because the family is suffering and they couldn't understand all the stuff that was going on and things like that. Another thing I should tell you too why the film is very attractive for me is because I do believe in the art of paranormal investigation because I've been through some real stuff and seen some stuff and heard some things. And that's why I tend to gravitate towards films that have those more haunted vibes kind of thing. The execution of the film itself uses, the normal tension and suspense of waiting for something to happen in order to prove what this family is saying is true. So, as with all paranormal investigations, it's run of the mill. You see them take out the equipment and so on, and whoever has the best equipment are the ones who could prove that the story is real, that the place is really haunted, right? Um, the other thing about the Conjuring films that I really liked, and it began in this one and it was replicated again in part two and part three and four, is that family dynamic. And Patrick Wilson really plays that character very good, that paternal part of the character very well because being a father himself, he understands how the demonic entity is trying to make to separate the family and make them more vulnerable so that they can get a way in, right? That they say that is the base for all demonic entities, trying to weaken the family balance, in other words. So he understands the importance of trying to keep the family together, keep them closer together, and try to foster it. So you see that they would spend time in the house, a simple thing like getting up in the morning, making pancakes. And you saw that there's a scene where Lorraine was helping um, the wife do laundry outside, which is another freaky scene that they had with the sheets in the yard. So they took normal everyday task and try to put like a normal try to retain the balance in the family other than the fact that they're scared out of their minds and they have to sleep in the living room and so on. But yeah, that's why that film is my number one and my favorite because I like the real Ed and Lorraine Warren, the whole paranormal thing, and seeing those my favorite cases come to light was just like the icing on the cake for me. I really wished, to be honest with you, maybe because the Amityville horror has been done so many times before, I kind of wish that one of the Conjuring films was actually like they did the Amityville horror instead of doing Last Rites. I was kind of hoping they would have done the Amityville horror before they closed off the chapter on the Warrens because the original Amityville horror film is not really here nor there for me. The one with Margot Kidder and James Brolin. There's
I
a lot
agree.
of
Hmm.
there's a lot of nothing going on in that film. So in modern
Yeah.
day times with all the technology that we had, I would have loved to see them take that and Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, Ed and Lorraine Warren in it, and do a nice big scary spin on it. But say what? But this case in itself, the Perron family case, was very, very popular. There are a lot of documentaries online that you could find out about what went on in real life and so on. But yeah, those are my films, and that was very hard to do, Matthew, because like I told you, my list started off at 30 and then went down to 25, and then it was very difficult to do, because there are a lot of films that I told you I stay away from, because mentally, I know for myself it will have like a mental effect on me, like a decline, you know. So I try not to stay away from things that affect like the way that I'm gonna sleep and so on and so forth, you know.
I understand.
Yeah. So if my list tends to just be like, oh well, you're only doing haunted stuff, you're only doing paranormal stuff, it's because that's what I like, you know. So sorry about the lack of variety.
No, I mean that's fine.
No,
At the end of the day,
it's
it's your list, right? You know, it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
reads it, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that's my list.
Okay. And thank you for sharing that with us. Right.
Yeah.